Bacon Bits and Moonshits, the Ballad of Trevor Rex. Trevor Rex was not your standard-issue miniature T-Rex, standing a modest 2 feet taller than Dennis-Rodman, which by every scientific metric made him unacceptably tall. Trevor looked like someone had ordered a dinosaur off Wish.com, then accidentally ticked the Surprise Me box for genetics. His arms, to the horror of paleontologists and structural engineers alike, were human-sized. He could downward dog, he could jazz hands, and most disturbingly, he could execute a flawless double middle finger without even breaking stride. Unfortunately, nature, in its infinite cocaine-bender wisdom, had gifted Trevor 2 additional curses: a catastrophic dairy allergy that rendered cheese into napalm for his intestines, a brutal intolerance to pork, rendering bacon, ham, and even distant thoughts of pigs into existential threats. Pork? Pork was personal. No one really knew how Trevor came to be. His parents, Stan and Sheila Rex, née the Johnsons before legal action, were average Midlands folk who once trusted a fertility clinic called Miracles or Your Money Back. They were assured by an overworked fertility doctor that there might be some slight side effects with the experimental program. They figured worst case, the kid would have funny ears. Instead, Sheila shat out a full-blown dinosaur at Stoke-on-Trent Regional, causing 3 midwives to faint and 1 orderly to immediately convert to Buddhism. Stan handled it like a pro, lit a cigarette inside the NICU, patted Trevor's scaly little head and muttered, "Could have been a vegan." Trevor grew up the only dinosaur on the estate. He wasn't lonely, exactly. He had Bradley, his pet hacky-sack. Now, to the untrained eye, Bradley appeared to be just that, a hacky-sack. Wrong. Bradley was alive, at least according to Trevor's working theory of the universe. God help you if you tried to kick Bradley. Several residents had learned the hard way. One ill-placed punt and Trevor's prehistoric instincts activated like a Tesco club card. He would bite your leg clean off at the hip, spit it out onto the pavement like a piece of overcooked gammon, and mutter furiously, "Can't have pork. Fucking disgraceful." Trevor's teeth situation was equally disastrous. In an act of orthodontic optimism, his parents paid for braces, believing technology could defeat millennia of evolution. It could not. Instead of straightening anything, the braces shifted his jaw sideways into what could only be described as a Pixar villain's profile. Square, massive, perfect for headbutting light aircraft. By the time he was 18, Trevor's jawline alone had its own postcode. Naturally, the modelling contracts poured in. By 1983, Trevor Rex was the Sports Illustrated Dino Daddy Summer Special cover boy. He hobnobbed with supermodels, attended coke parties so exclusive even the drugs had to RSVP, and bought himself a cherry-red Lamborghini Countach. Here's the thing about Lamborghinis. They're built for men with proportional arms. Trevor's reach was that of a cryptid trying to hug a cactus. He couldn't drive the bastard for love nor money. After 3 failed attempts to park outside an Essex nightclub, all of which ended with the horn sounding like it was actively begging for death, he finally snapped. He bit all 4 tires off. Not slashed, bit them. Tore them from the rims like a man possessed, spat rubber all over the sidewalk, and took a furious chomp out of the bonnet for good measure. Covered in tire shrapnel and failure, he bellowed, "I'm fucking out!" and he stomped away. The next 6 months were a haze. By mysterious forces, drunkenness, stubbornness, and possibly a floating door he found, Trevor somehow crossed the Atlantic. He eventually found himself stumbling through the south side of Chicago with a ham sandwich he couldn't eat, 3 quarters, 2 Canadian, 1 covered in blood, and a bit of some guy's shin bone stuck between his incisors. It was outside a defunct chicken shack where Trevor met the wizard. Well, wizard. Really, it was Carl, a homeless bloke with a bin bag cape and an entrepreneurial spirit. Trevor, half-deaf after years of being near 80 speakers and gunshots, misheard Carl's desperate cry for $1. "You're a wizard?" Trevor asked, eyes wide. Carl paused, considered his options. "Yeah, mate, bloody Merlin, me. Behind that bin. Magic portal. One-way ticket." Trevor nodded gravely. Carl took a quick swing with a mouldy baguette, walloped Trevor unconscious, rolled him onto the back of a Ford pickup and sped toward Albuquerque. Trevor woke up somewhere off Interstate 40, groggy, confused, smelling faintly of piss and destiny. He rolled off the back of the truck, bounced once, twice, and plummeted into a pothole so deep it probably needed its own postal code. He fell for what felt like centuries, through earth, rock, bits of forgotten civilizations, a surprising amount of vape pens, and the ghost of a Blockbuster employee. When he finally landed, it was not Albuquerque anymore. He was on the moon. Well, sort of. It looked like the moon. Big craters, suspicious dust, appalling parking. But there were inconsistencies. Bacon bits drifted lazily through the atmosphere like gentle nuclear fallout. There was a Tesco Express about 50 feet to the left, and most confusingly, a massive glowing albatross chewing on his trouser leg. The albatross, known only as Balthazar, was very much real, and he was off his absolute tits on a combination of mushrooms, LSD, and what appeared to be expired Fanta. How Balthazar had gotten there was anyone's guess. How he stayed upright was a miracle of modern pharmacology. He wasn't trying to hurt Trevor, per se. No, he was obsessed with Trevor's pants. At the worst possible moments, Balthazar would stagger over, pupils like dinner plates, and start gnawing at Trevor's ankles with the enthusiasm of a meth-riddled beaver. Trevor hated him. He despised him with a passion so pure it could purify oil. But Trevor, being British at his core, simply tolerated it with silent, seething resentment. Passive aggression so potent it could have vaporized a weaker bird. Trevor shook Balthazar off with a well-practiced kick and looked up. There, across the craggy surface, something was happening. It was men. Men in white suits, with flags and a camera crew. It was the moon landing. Neil Armstrong, Buzz Aldrin, that third bloke nobody ever remembers. They were there, planting flags, bouncing about like happy toddlers in zero gravity. Trevor's massive Pixar jaw dropped. Holy shit, it's the moon landing. It's the actual bloody moon landing, he whispered, genuinely awed. He lumbered forward, waving his massive human arms like a drunk mime. Oi, over there! I exist! I fucking exist! The astronauts froze. Neil blinked behind his visor. Buzz pointed. The cameraman screamed. Without a word, they sprinted back to their lander, visibly shitting themselves. The ship took off, belching smoke and panic into the fake lunar sky. Trevor stood there, heartbroken, ankle throbbing from Balthazar's latest love bite. Was it me? He muttered. For a moment he felt crushing sadness, the loneliness of a Mandino rejected by history itself. But something wasn't right. He looked down. The ground beneath him rippled. He sniffed the air, latex, spray paint, and then with one mighty yank he pulled up the moon rock near him. Underneath, studio lighting, concrete, a bit of old chewing gum. Trevor stared. Slowly, deliberately, he peeled back the cheap tarp covering the crater. Behind it, Hollywood, a dusty backlot off Sunset Boulevard. He wasn't on the moon. He was in a car park next to an Arby's. Trevor stood there, Balthazar now humping his shin in drug-fueled ecstasy, bacon bits falling from the fake sky, and felt the final string in his mind snap. He bellowed into the Los Angeles night, "I'm the only real thing you ever fucking had!" Somewhere a pigeon nodded in solemn agreement. The end.